Habermas has written many books, and he is still writing. These are some of his important books. Structural Transformation of Public Sphere, The Legitimation Crisis, The Theory of Communicative Action, The Crisis of European Union. He wrote his first important book in 1962, and then The Crisis of European Union was written 50 years after that. So recently some seminars are held on Habermas at 90 years. Okay. So he is the one who is in a position to make very insightful remarks on a contemporary world. Previous thinkers they didn't know things like totalitarian regimes and collapse of USSR, European Union. So Habermas is giving a theoretical perspective to some very important contemporary developments. In that sense, he is very relevant. Okay. Of the many things that he talked about, one particular concept became very important. That is legitimation crisis. Legitimation crisis. Legitimation crisis refers to crisis of legitimacy. A regime may lose its legitimacy. Institutions may lose their legitimacy. By legitimacy, what is meant is faith in the institutions. Legitimation crisis refers to a decline in the confidence of administrative functions, institutions, or leadership. Governing structures are unable to demonstrate that their practical functions fulfill the role for which they were instituted. They are not doing what they were supposed to do. People have lost faith in them. Okay. So thinkers previously were talking about the issues of legitimacy, but this particular phrase, legitimation crisis, is used for the first time by Habermas. A book is titled on this, The Legitimation Crisis, 1973. Okay. This legitimation crisis is applicable across societies. This crisis can take place across societies. Let's see, legitimation crisis across societies, across any society. But let us discuss legitimation crisis in capitalism. Okay. Here, Habermas has many interesting observations made many interesting observations. Okay, let us first look at things analytically. There is society. There is economic system of capitalism. And primary thing is market here. And there is a state. Before capitalism, there was feudalism. Habermas maintains distinctions across these aspects of the society, social system. Capitalism is a particular kind of an economic system. And what does that call for? Calls for markets. And there are certain values by which capitalism works. One very important value is self-interest. Greed, profit motive. Rationality. Individualism. So when people are trying to maximize their self-interest, they are supposed to work in such a way, a good outcome, desirable outcomes are created when people are going by demand and supply forces. Nothing but pursuit of their own self-interest. We know this idea of self-interest, greed, profit motive is these are not the values that glorified by the tradition. When Adam Smith talked about self-interest is a positive thing that contributes to the efficiency of the economic system, he was making statement which was counter to tradition. For example, religions never glorified greed, self-interest, profit motive. Calculation. Here rationality meant calculation in terms of better outcomes, and those outcomes are for individual purpose. So these are new values. So capitalism brought new set of values, and on the basis of those new values, capitalism generated wealth. This is what we normally think, many have thought. Okay. But Habermas adds something which is very insightful to this. He says, what contributed to the success are not these values only. These values, along with many traditional values, in fact, capitalism was taking many things from tradition. How is this so? Capitalism may focus on self-interest. That's true. But then, the people who are now talking about self-interest under capitalism are those who have been socialized into the idea of generosity, helping others. So the people who are socialized into thinking in a particular way, who have certain values, picked up value of self-interest, which means they are not completely into the self-interest. This is coming out saliently, but it is on this basis. People may, for example, this calls for spending, consume. But the spending and consume values are new, but people are socialized into no spending. Okay. Restraint, don't consume. Restraint. So, for those who had the value of restraint, consumption became an additional value. And then there are many things, many traditional values which are responsible for smooth functioning of capitalism. For example, trust. Capitalism doesn't teach trust, but trust is needed for contracts to be fulfilled. Loyalty. Capitalism requires bureaucratic organization where a person is loyal to his superior, but capitalism hasn't taught loyalty. So which means there are many traditional values. People have these traditional values. On the basis of traditional values, some new counterintuitive values came up. Self-interest, individualism. Individualism, the value that capitalism glorifies, was operating on the previous value of importance to the community. Which means the things that made capitalism work were not drawn from capitalism itself. They were drawn from tradition. I believe this is a very important concept. Now we know greed that capitalism glorified did not survive simply on itself. It thrived on the generosity and certain higher values that the tradition gave. In fact, Max Weber said capitalism came from Protestant ethic. So he gave religious sources to capitalism, and Habermas is giving a general picture. Okay. So capitalism thrived on tradition. It became successful. But Habermas says it became so successful that it gave rise to new thinking, new kind of man, and there were no previous values that helped. I mean, there were no traditional values left that helped capitalism to grow. That is, capitalism grew so successfully that it ate up its own source, that was tradition. For example, everybody thinks in terms of self-interest. When everybody thinks in terms of self-interest, then maybe trust may not be a good thing. Loyalty may not be a good thing. If one goes only by self-interest and rational calculation, if one is working, how is it good for me to help him? Is it good for me to keep this contract? So purely rationalistic, self-oriented calculations without any values. Will capitalism survive? That's one. Because I think this is maybe happening when we say society is changing, capitalist values are spreading to the society and social values are changing. That is one. Second thing is, so capitalism is depleting its source, like HIV plants depleted nutrients of the soil and water table. Capitalism, using the tradition, depleted the tradition. Okay. And another thing is, as long as tradition was playing a role, you can call it pre-capitalist society was playing a role and capitalism was thriving, things seemed good. But if there are no pre-capitalist values, what are the values of capitalism? For example, does this give rise to demand and supply forces, give rise to just society? Okay. Does it award merit? Does it award hardworking people? So if you go by capitalist values, do people feel that going by capitalism gives a just society, or going by capitalism is itself a just society? So it means, does people's perception of justice match with the functioning and the outcome of capitalism? And there are enough reasons to think it is not so. Capitalism is not seen as just. Market delivers goods to those who have the ability to buy, and not those who may need more. Because social values and capitalist outcomes are not matching, then one can expect state to regulate capitalism, regulate demand and supply forces. Okay. And how should state regulate? According to values of the society. Society is to help the state, or tell the state how regulate in terms of outcomes. But then when state intervenes, state may intervene to a particular point, but beyond that point, a state intervention will affect the motivational component of the capitalism. For example, if state tries to keep things at a more equal level, then incentive systems may be wrecked. That's how capitalism becomes less successful. So if you leave capitalism to itself, then certain outcomes will exist. And if you get state, then it won't work the way it was supposed to work. Okay. And as of now, capitalism is facing certain very serious problems all over the world. Inequalities is one issue. In fact, in an advanced, very advanced capitalism like US, okay, take for example US. In the US, capitalism had legitimacy because people believed that market would reward the hardworking, the meritorious, the inventors. But inequalities in the US now are at such a level that it is previous wealth, it is the accumulated wealth that is cause that is leading to more income, and not the merit, not the work. So the way capitalism is rewarding individuals now is not on the basis of work or invention, but on the previous accumulation, which means it is not contributing to the efficiency also. That is, the creative destruction and rewarding the right people was considered to be the efficient thing about the capitalism, and that is no longer being done. So people are questioning what is capitalism and what is it doing. This is what is called legitimation crisis. Okay. It is not only capitalism that can have a legitimation crisis, socialism can have a legitimation crisis. So legitimation crisis is a general concept. Okay. So in his analysis, Habermas is trying to see the links between economy, state, society, and the transition, and how what we believe may not deliver, and so how we can enter legitimation crisis. So in the case of capitalism, what does Habermas think to be the solution? Habermas thinks that undistorted communication in terms of the truth, where people are free to say what they think, so will give rise to new set of values, and only that way the crisis can be met. So let us go through some of the things he said. Okay. See, bourgeoisie culture as a whole has never been able to reproduce itself from itself. It was always dependent upon motivationally effective supplementation by traditional worldviews. Bourgeoisie culture is capitalist culture, was depending on tradition. Next, the repressive authority of conscience, that is, power of conscience, and an individual achievement orientation among the bourgeoisie, to the external superego structures and conventional work morality among the lower classes. These are all the values not coming from capitalism, but from pre-capitalist society. Okay. Next, the precondition for this is equal opportunity. For the legitimacy for the market. The precondition for this is equal opportunity to participate in a competition that is regulated so as to neutralize external influences. The market was such an allocation mechanism, since it has been recognized even among the population at large that social force is exercised in the form of economic exchange. The market has lost its credibility as a fair from the perspective of achievement mechanism for the distribution of life opportunities. So market lost its legitimacy. So what is the solution? Saying, how would the members of a social system at a given stage in the development of productive forces have collectively and bindingly interpreted their needs, and which norms would they have accepted as justified if they could and would have decided on the organization of social intercourse through discursive will formation with adequate knowledge of the limiting conditions and functional imperatives of society. So he's saying how people, what kind of values people finally arrive at is justice. This is called rational consensus theory of morality. So Habermas is saying that new values have to come to face the legitimation crisis. And without new values, the alternative is force. Our excursion into contemporary discussion of ethics was intended to support the assertion that practical questions admit of truth. If this is so, justifiable norms can be distinguished from norms that merely stabilize relations of force. Insofar as norms express generalizable interests, they are based on a rational consensus, or they would find such a consensus if practical discourse could take place. Insofar as norms don't regulate generalizable interests, they are based upon force. So definitely this is not a simple way of writing. It's very, very abstract and very complex. But he's essentially saying that people should have new set of values based on how things work. Otherwise, there would be crisis of legitimacy because of huge mismatch between what is expected and what are the outcomes.